Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Thursday, January 1st, 2026. I'm Errol Lewis. We'd like to wish all of our viewers a Happy New Year. Today, Zohran Mamdani was ceremonially sworn in as New York City's 112th mayor and delivered an inauguration speech with a unifying theme while also making clear that he intends to stick to his principles as a democratic socialist. I'd like to bring in our Ayanna Harry and Courtney Gross. They were with me down at City Hall during the inauguration. Good evening to both of you. And Courtney, I haven't caught up with you just yet. You were kind of moving around. I saw you jumping up on stage at one point in violation of all of their rules. What was going on down there?
So obviously it's a momentous, huge occasion to have a new mayor, 112th mayor, Zohran Mamdani, becoming the 112th mayor. We originally thought he was going to be the 111th, but apparently there was a miscalculation along the way and we have a 112th mayor instead. And I think while we were wandering around, we were trying to see who was at the inauguration, who wasn't at the inauguration. I mean, I saw everyone from Jerry Nadler and obviously to the Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who introduced the beginning of the entire ceremony. And then obviously Mamdani was sworn in by the senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. This is the second mayor in recent history to be sworn in by Bernie Sanders. Obviously, Bill de Blasio was sworn in by Sanders a couple of years ago in 2017. But I think this speech is what everyone was paying attention to today because it really was setting the tone for what the next 100 days and what the next 4 years is going to look like. And while he did say, the new mayor did say that he wanted to bring everyone together, that obviously there have been hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers who did not vote for him. At the same time, he is still a democratic socialist and he has certain ideals, certain policies that he has promised and has told millions of New Yorkers he's going to get done. And he wanted to make that clear today.
Yeah. And it was interesting. A few moments stood out to me from this speech. We once again saw Zohran Mamdani seek to try and reach as many New Yorkers as possible. He spoke about, from Hillside Avenue to Fordham Road. He said he stands for halal cart owners as well as construction workers. And there were also the touching personal moments as well when he thanked his parents for raising him and also his wife for being his best friend.
Yeah, some very vivid imagery. Our Bobby Kuza has highlights from today's ceremony in this report.
Today begins a new era.
Thursday marked a number of firsts for New York City. Its first Muslim and first South Asian mayor was sworn into office using for the first time a Quran, Islam's holiest book.
I, Zohran Mamdani.
I, Zohran Mamdani.
During a 24-minute inauguration speech, Mamdani preached a message of solidarity.
We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
The ceremony also featured two luminaries of the political left, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who delivered opening remarks, and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who administered the ceremonial oath, then gave a rousing speech defending Mamdani's agenda.
In the richest country in the history of the world, making sure that people can live in affordable housing is not radical.
Technically, Mamdani took office just after midnight with the official swearing in administered by State Attorney General Letitia James in the old decommissioned City Hall subway station. The inauguration ceremony, meanwhile, was attended by New York's most prominent elected officials, including Governor Kathy Hochul and former mayors Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams. Two other citywide elected officials, Comptroller Mark Levine and Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, were also sworn in and delivered remarks. But Mamdani's speech was the main event, where he promised to pursue his ambitious agenda.
We will govern without shame and insecurity, making no apology for what we believe. I was elected as a democratic socialist, and I will govern as a democratic socialist.
Bobby Kuza, New York 1.
Shortly after that City Hall ceremony, Mayor Mamdani held his first event, meeting with tenants of a rent-regulated building in Brooklyn that are facing financial problems. He also signed a series of executive orders related to housing. Our Dan Rivley was there and joins us now with the details. Good evening, Dan.
Good Good evening, Errol. It was fitting. Mayor Mamdani won his election on promising to freeze the rent on regulated units. So his first official event as mayor after that ceremonial inauguration on the steps of City Hall was coming here to Prospect Lefferts Garden to a rent-stabilized apartment building. And that's where I'm standing right now in the lobby. And Mamdani was there to sign some executive orders on housing. And he was also getting to tour some of the rent-regulated apartments here. And he was cheered on by tenants here who are part of a tenants union. Now, the issue here is that this building is owned by a real estate company called Pinnacle Group, and Pinnacle Group had filed bankruptcy protection for many of its real estate holdings, including this building, and Pinnacle Group is also going to be auctioning them off. So Mayor Mamdani promised to take some official action. He had the city's chief lawyer, the Corporation Counsel, the appointee, Stephen Banks, saying that he's going to craft a legal strategy to make sure that tenants are protected through the bankruptcy process. Here's more from Mamdani on that action.
This is an untenable situation. So today we are announcing that we will be taking action in the bankruptcy case, stepping in to represent the interests of the city and the interests of the tenants and say once and for all who this government will be fighting for. I have directed my nominee for Corporation Counsel, Steve Banks, to take precedent-setting action in the bankruptcy case on behalf of the renters of this building and of the thousands of other renters across New York in similar situations.
So I tried to get Steve Banks, the nominee for Corporation Counsel, to give a little detail what actually he would do or seek to do in this bankruptcy to protect the tenants. He said he's going to craft a legal strategy and confer with who he called his clients before coming up with a goal or strategy in this bankruptcy proceeding on behalf of the tenants here. Now, onto those two executive orders. Mamdani actually brought a desk here in the lobby. It's quite spacious, so there's a lot of room. And he signed two executive orders, basically creating task forces that would come up with ideas to make more affordable housing. One task force would look at some of the city-owned property, and another task force would basically take a look at some regulations, bureaucracy, to see what can go away so that affordable housing developers can actually build and bring down the rents, which is one of Mamdani's goals. He also announced that he is reviving the mayor's office to protect tenants, and he's picking a longtime housing advocate, Sia Weaver, to lead that office. Here's more from Weaver after being named director of this office.
Every month on the first of the month, like today, when we pay our rent, we're the ones who are ensuring that the lights come on and our city moves forward. Over the last 15 years, I've worked with many people in this room to build powerful tenant associations, neighborhood organizations, and statewide coalitions with one goal in mind: ensuring that tenants have a collective voice in the day-to-day decisions that impact their lives.
And when Mamdani took questions from reporters, one asked about an executive order that basically revokes all executive orders Mayor Eric Adams signed after September 26, 2024. That is not just a random date. That was the day Mayor Adams was indicted on corruption charges, federal corruption charges. Here's why Mamdani felt that was significant.
We have to reckon with why so many New Yorkers have turned away from politics over the last few months, the last few years, the last few decades. And that was a date that marked a moment when many New Yorkers decided that politics held nothing for them, but more of the same.
And after the news conference, I did speak to a few tenants here who said they've had real trouble trying to get their repairs addressed by the landlord, and they were glad to see Mamdani here in this building, Errol.
So now, Dan, is the hope of the tenants that somehow the bankruptcy would be reversed, or that the building might end up in the hands of a responsible owner?
Right. Well, the chants from the tenants here were calling for a rent strike and tenant ownership. That being said, there is a concern that the landlord, the company that picks up these properties on bankruptcy, would also be a bad landlord. They believe one of the landlords had appeared on the New York City bad landlord list, so they're not really optimistic that there's going to be a responsible landlord to pick up these properties, and they really do fear it's going to be another bad landlord who doesn't address the repair needs they have. But of course, we'll have to see what the city city officially does in this bankruptcy proceeding for Pinnacle's properties, including the one I'm standing in.
Okay, thanks very much, Dan. I'm back with my colleagues, Courtney Gross and Ayanna Harry. And Courtney, it sounds like the city is going to be intervening on the side of tenants. In this case, it's not clear that they could have intervened on anybody else's side if you're talking about a bankrupt landlord.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds me a lot of something that used to happen during the de Blasio administration. I mean, I can recall covering the Department of Homeless Services under the leadership of Stephen Banks, who's obviously the nominee to be Mamdani's corporation counsel, where he would go after people who were in the shelter system in what had been known as scatter site housing, where these apartments were known as cluster sites and run by bad landlords. And they would go after them to try to improve the conditions in this. And this sounds very similar.
Yeah, so it won't necessarily make your rent lower, but at least you'll get good value for the money you are paying.
And that goes to the theme of part of what we heard Zohran Mamdani speak to earlier today, that he wants the government to once again be accountable to the people, to deliver results for everyday New Yorkers. And it seems that he's trying to take that steps with adding more protections for tenants.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayanna. Thank you, Courtney. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, Mayor Mamdani hosted the first of a kind block party right outside City Hall. Thousands of New Yorkers gathered to watch his swearing in. We'll take a closer look at that in 2 minutes. Stay with us. We are back inside City Hall. Thousands of Mamdani supporters braved the cold today to watch the 112th mayor at his swearing-in ceremony. It marked a new beginning for the city, and our Kelly Mena was there. She joins us now with that part of the story. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Errol. And that bitter cold wasn't going to keep revelers and supporters of the new mayor away from the streets near City Hall. They stood for many hours just to watch him become the city's next mayor.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'll probably never see another mayor again.
Despite the freezing cold, tens of thousands of spectators stood in line for hours to see Mayor Zohran Mamdani get sworn in at City Hall. The crowd was part of the new mayor's block party event that invited the public to join in on the celebration. No mayor in recent history has held such an event. Those watching had to first sign up online before being checked in upon arrival. The party started at Broadway and Park Row and stretched back past Fulton Street and included musical performances as well as giant screens for viewing. As the first Muslim mayor of the city, Mamdani's big day marked a moment of pride for Muslim New Yorkers.
It's actually inspiring for us, a young generation, and seeing someone who's look like us and representing us is truly grateful and makes us inspire for the next generation to come.
It wasn't just residents of the 5 boroughs who swarmed to the event. The crowd also included spectators from New Jersey and upstate.
Even though I couldn't get closer, and that's a bit unfortunate, I think it means something to me to have said that I've been here for the inauguration of the first Indian mayor of New York City and the socialist mayor of New York City. It means a lot to me.
New York One spoke to some of the attendees who said they see hope in Mamdani's administration.
Affordable housing is really a struggle in the city. I work in the public schools. I work for the Department of Ed, so I see the impact that it has on our families and school children. We have a lot of housing instability in the city, and I see the impact it has on education. And so I'm excited to see what change can be.
I truly hope that he can make the city affordable, especially groceries. The way this economy is going, we truly need somebody that is there to care for us and wants every New Yorker to live, a proper life.
And one attendee also told us that they're excited about those fast and free buses, saying that they no longer want to take 2 hours to commute to work, Errol.
So this is an open area. It's a couple of 100 yards maybe from where the main event was happening. Could you hear, even with the TV there, could you hear the actual events? There was a lot of noise, a lot of cheering, a lot of music coming from City Hall.
Yeah, you definitely could. And let me tell you, Errol, there were some high points and some low points. Definitely seeing Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, that brought out a lot of cheers. Hearing Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez also brought out a lot of cheers. And actually, there was some booing when Mayor Zohran Mamdani brought up the previous mayor, Eric Adams, and some of the things he's done. And there was also that cheer that we've heard really for the past 9 months about taxing the rich, when Mamdani and some of the other speakers talk about billionaires and millionaires in the city paying their fair share and how the city's going to be affordable for everybody, not just them.
And yeah, for a lot of our viewers, they may find it hard to believe, but you ran into people who really traveled pretty long distances in order to stand, on the perimeter just to be that close to the main event.
Yeah, I mean, the furthest I heard was Albany and Rochester, it here in New York. But out of state, there were 2 spectators I spoke to who came all the way from Florida. They were here for a separate event, but they knew it coincided with the inauguration. So they signed up online, stood in line, got there at 8:30 in the morning and stayed there throughout. I mean, they've been watching, you know, for Mamdani, he's maybe a symbol here in the city, but for others across the country, Democrats who may be in these red or purple states, he's also a symbol for them, and hopefulness that maybe they could see that in their states one day, but maybe far, far in the future, Errol.
Okay, thanks very much, Kelly. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined by City Controller Mark Levine, who is now in charge of New York's finances. Stay with us.
Our city today is booming for people at the top, but it's getting tougher and tougher for working families to pay their rent, to find a job with a living wage, and yes, Mr. Mayor, to find affordable childcare. A comptroller must use the tools of the office to close this gap, and I will.
Welcome back to this special Inauguration Day edition of Inside City Hall. Mayor Mamdani was not the only one sworn in on the steps of City Hall today. It's also Inauguration Day for former Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, who was ceremonially sworn in as our city's new controller. He gave a speech promising a more just economy. You just heard a piece of it. He joins me now in studio to talk about his new role and how he plans to deliver on those promises. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much, Errol. Thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. What's on the agenda? How do you, using the powers of your office, make life more affordable for New Yorkers?
Well, first of all, we're going to invest pension money in a plan that will help finance what we believe will be tens of thousands of units of affordable housing. This is really the biggest challenge to building more housing in the city, which is lack of financing. And we can do this in a way that's prudent, that protects the assets of retirees, but that can get affordable housing built that we wouldn't otherwise see. And also, we've got to fix city government. And I was very gratified to hear the mayor acknowledge this in his speech. But you want to get a project approved to build affordable housing in New York, you got to add 18 months to the timeline just to get the paperwork and loan documents approved by HPD. That's not acceptable. That means there's families in homeless shelters for another year and a half. So we're going to have a multi-front push on this, both to get more financing to build the housing we need and to fix what's delaying this housing inside the city government.
As a city council member and then as borough president, you've tried to get projects built.
Yes.
I imagine you've run into some of the kind of bureaucracy you just described. Where do you think the choke points are that need to be worked on?
In every single agency. We can go agency by agency. I just learned, Errol, that when the city builds its own projects, it hires an expediter to get its own paperwork through city agencies. This is how bad it is. And this is just decades of accumulated, well-intentioned policies that together mean it costs $5 million to build a bathroom in New York City and years to get these projects done. And it's hurting New Yorkers. We've got to modernize government. We've got to use technology to get better results for people, including families in homeless shelters who need us to build housing faster.
What happens when trying to streamline those processes run into, let's call them politically protected constituencies, like say the building trades unions or some other kind of group that can't just be sloughed off, that might in fact have legal standing in the form of labor contracts that really require things to be done the way they've always been done?
Yeah, you know, compare New York to Paris or London. You can build much faster and much quicker in those two cities. They're just as old as New York. They have labor protections that are as strong or stronger than New York. So what's going on here? And I think it is this accumulation of laws that are well-intentioned, that are meant to ensure community input, environmental review,
safety?
Yes, safety, design criteria, each one of which has justification. But fighting fraud, for sure, is a major factor here. And I think we need a top-to-bottom review now to streamline these impediments to building and to making government work for regular people.
You made a point in your speech of mentioning something that has been of great concern to this program, which is the delays in payments to social service contractors that provide so much of the services to the neediest in New York. And in some cases, they're waiting for 2 and 3 years. There are billions of dollars at stake. There are companies or nonprofit organizations that have gone out of business while they're waiting. And yet, there's always the specter of fraud that's out there. As the controller, you're right in the center of that. You brought it up in your speech today.
Yes.
What do you plan to do about it?
Oh, it's a scandal. There are certain functions that the city government doesn't want to do, and so we contract with nonprofits to do it, whether it's after-school programs, meals for homebound seniors, public health services, et cetera. And those nonprofits do the work, they pay the salaries and the rent, and then we don't reimburse them. And of course, you've got to protect the money against fraud, but you have cases where you've got $1 million contract and there's a dispute over 1% of the contract, and they hold up the whole thing. And meanwhile, the nonprofit could go under. So I think we need more flexible rules. We need to advance money faster. We need to get this money out the door. By the way, it's not just nonprofits, also for-profit companies as well. I hear from many of them that are essentially floating millions of dollars of zero-interest loans to the city. It's not fair. It's going to be one of my top priorities to fix.
Is that something, is that a case where you as a former legislator would consider drafting model legislation? Because there are a lot of bureaucratic fixes that your 3 predecessors have talked about it. John Liu talked about it. Bill Thompson talked about it. Brad Lander talked about it. And they all made promises around it, and nobody seemed to be able to move the ball.
It's true. You need the mayor to be committed because much of this is in the hands of the mayor. Some of it is in the comptroller's office. There's an obscure board that you've probably never heard of, the Procurement Policy Board, that makes these rules. The mayor has 2 votes, as comptroller will have 1. We're going to use that body to aggressively reform. We've got to get this done, and I'm going to fight very, very hard until we do.
The overarching theme today is that groups, New Yorkers who have been on the outside looking in, are now being brought into the center of government. Is that going to be true for your office as well?
It's true for my office, and I just want to say how thrilled I am about this moment for the city. And the mayor, in his speech, touched on this theme of serving people who have been left behind, people who are struggling, working-class New Yorkers who are facing mounting challenges, and they should be front and center in the city's policymaking, and they will be in my office as well. It'll be reflected both in the staffing of the office and the policy initiatives of the office. And much of the work we do, we're going to elevate diversity as an important value. We have a huge pension fund, over $300 billion in assets. And it's important that we have greater diversity in the people who manage those assets. It's something I talked about in the campaign, and I'm committed to making progress on as comptroller.
Okay, and in your office, in your inbox right now, is a hot smoking report that your predecessor just published in the closing days of his term, showing that we have a health stabilization fund for retired New York City workers that is essentially broken, insolvent, out of business. There are things that are going to have to be done to try and deal with that. What's your sense of how you're going to proceed on that?
I haven't read the full report yet. I'm going to soon, and I expect to be briefed on it soon. It's true that the fund was created at a very different time when we had very specific challenges because of the emergence of a new healthcare plan for city workers. So we're going to be reviewing the report, and I'm going to be talking to partners in municipal labor and in the mayor's team to figure out the best way forward. And if we need to, chart a new path.
Okay. It's budget season in Albany, and as we find out how it's going to affect New York City, and as we find out more of what's coming out of Washington, I hope you'll come back and we'll be able to talk about it.
I promise I will. Thank you, Errol.
Okay. Thanks a whole lot.
All right.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, we'll break down Mayor Mamdani's executive orders on housing and tenant protections when I'll talk it over with Layla Bozorg. She's the new deputy mayor for housing and planning. That's coming up in 2 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to this special Inauguration Day edition of Inside City Hall. A key campaign promise of Mayor Zohran Mamdani was to address housing and affordability in our city. He wasted no time kicking off that part of his agenda, signing a series of executive orders right after the public ceremonies. One of them aims to protect tenants. Joining me now with more on that is Layla Bozorg. She is the new deputy mayor for housing and planning in the Mamdani administration. Welcome to the program. Very good to see you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
This is a very high-profile portfolio. It's not just housing. It also includes a lot of economic development. There are a number of different agencies that you're going to be essentially in charge of coordinating at a minimum. How do you sort of conceive of all of this? There's no built-in staff for you, right? You're going to have to sort of build out your staff and figure out exactly how you're going to go about your tasks?
Well, as you know, I've actually been working in the past 2 administrations, so this is a continuation of 15 years of housing work that I've been doing in the city and in the federal government. So I'm coming in ready to go because I've been at City Hall at some of the agencies. And I do have some staff that I'll keep, and we'll be building out the team as well, including through one of the executive orders today, where we'll be building out and renewing the mayor's office to protect tenants.
As a veteran of this kind of work, are there problems that you've seen in the past where you've always been wondering, you know, look, if I had a chance to change this, I would fix this or that problem in government?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's always these issues around some of the bureaucratic processes we have that hamper development. And I think we have a moment right now in the political will to finally address some of those.
The mayor is appointing 2 task forces, and if I read these executive orders right, you're going to be basically in charge of them, or at least responding to their output around what to do with city-owned property and how to deal with some of the bureaucratic impediments to getting housing built, which the controller was just talking about. Do you have any fixed ideas about that going into it, or is this going to be a sort of a pure fact-finding mission?
Yeah, well, so one of them, the LIFT task force, Land Inventory Fast Track, that will be something that I've done in previous roles as well, and with other parts of city government. But what we're really going to be doing, the mayor is mandating that the involved agencies take a look at properties that they own. These aren't necessarily vacant properties. These are properties that might have other city facilities on it, things that might require reinvestment, and really asking the question, can those facilities be moved or reimagined to also have housing on site? So that's one example. And then the second task force is the speed task force, which is really going to be looking at, and this is kind of a newer area, from soup to nuts of the development process. Everything from the pre-certification stage, before something goes into the land use process, all the way through marketing and lease up. You've probably heard over the years a lot of challenges with the lease up process, especially if someone has rental assistance, taking a number, hundreds of days at times, and units end up sitting vacant. So we'll be looking at the entire development process, looking for opportunities to really eliminate some of those bureaucratic steps and or bring in new investments to solve any bottlenecks that exist.
And in some ways, it's not as easy as it might sound, because there are requirements that come, say, from the federal government, right, about means testing and other kind of required steps before you can put a family in affordable units at times.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Obviously, if it was easy, we would have done it by now. But there are times where you're balancing fair housing requirements with speed. There are times when you're balancing life and safety requirements, for example, in the permitting process, with speed. So this is really about having the political will to decide where you're really going to be aggressive and make some tough choices about what steps get removed or where you might need to bring new investment to. For example, Comptroller Levine was just talking about modernizing technologies. In some cases, there's just an issue where we need to reinvest in some of the technologies that move these processes forward.
Very interesting. The City News Organization recently published something that is going to fall squarely on your desk, which is HPD, which is one of the agencies you'll be overseeing, and the city's housing authority. They both have responsibility for moving forward on what are called RAD or packed housing units, meaning private developers who are both investing in and managing some public housing units. It turns out HPD has recorded thousands, over 14,000 housing violations, not all of which are serious, but some of which are quite serious, around mold and other kind of basic sort of problems. What's your initial thinking about how you'll straighten that out?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. So I actually worked on creating RAD when I worked in the federal government 15 years ago. One of the interesting things about it is that the way NYCH is running the PACT program, yes, it does introduce private management. But what that allows for is that if a private manager is actually not meeting its requirements and they're not fixing code violations, for example, NYCH now has tools to remove that manager. That is actually something that's introduced through the PACT program, a tool that NYCH didn't have previously that made it hard sometimes to address those actual violations. So in fact, they have a lot of more flexibility, in fact, to take action if a management company isn't holding up to its responsibilities.
I see. And getting them to do so would be yet another one of the things that Layla Bozor will be working on.
Absolutely. I'm going to look very closely into what some of those issues are and be working with NYCH leadership to make sure we're taking action where we can.
I've talked with some people in your field who say that this isn't going to be as hard as people might think, that there's a lot of complexity to it, but when you have the political will, when you have support from the top, it's possible to get amazing things done. What's your take on that?
I absolutely believe that's true. I mean, I think our people often talk about our housing crisis as intractable. I don't believe that it is. I think you need to be aggressive. I think you need to have political will, and you need to have communities that want to play a part in addressing the housing crisis. And right now, in this new era, I'm really excited about Mayor Mamdani's North Star on housing. He set an appropriately aggressive agenda, and really excited to be part of seeing that agenda into governing success.
Are there legislative aspects to this? Is there something the city council might do that's on your wish list?
The city council is going to be an important partner and always is when it comes to housing. I think I'm really excited to see what the new city council wants to accomplish together on housing. There's not specific legislation right now that I can think of that, but absolutely we'll be hopefully working very closely together to address the crisis.
Developers, not just nonprofit developers, but for-profit developers who maybe aren't interested in building affordable housing. Is there a role for them in this? Is there a sense that we've got to get more units at every price level in order to make the market more fair?
Yeah, so the nonprofit housing community, the for-profit housing community has a role to play in addressing our housing crisis. They already do, and we'll be looking to expand those roles. There's enough of a need that exists that we need all partners at the table, from community-based organizations. We want to strengthen the role of nonprofit developers in meeting our housing goal, but there's also absolutely a role for the private market, and half the time it's about unleashing the private market to build more housing that supports our broad housing supply and demand issues.
Okay, people should keep that in mind.
Yep.
Layla Bozorg, you got your work cut out for you. Thanks so much for coming by. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined by one of Mayor Mamdani's closest confidants. Election attorney Ali Najmi will be live in studio in 2 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to our special Inauguration Day edition of Inside City Hall. Zohran Mamdani was hardly a household name a year ago, but his historic rise and election victory has been making headlines around the nation and indeed around the globe. Joining me now to talk more about Mamdani's campaign strategy, his path to City Hall, and what comes next is his election attorney, Ali Najmi. Welcome back to the show. Very good to see you.
Thank you, Earl. It's great to be back.
Absolutely. Now, you wear a lot of different hats, and you do a lot of different things with the mayor, and I'd love to hear how you're describing it now. I do know that you are the counsel to the Transition Committee, which is somewhat formal, but you play a lot of other roles as well.
First and foremost, the mayor is my brother and my friend. We have been working together for 10 years since he first volunteered on my city council race. We have been board members together on the Muslim Democratic Club in New York, which we're both still members of. And I've been his longstanding election attorney, and I've been proud to serve as lead counsel to the transition. Today was day one, the beginning of the end of the transition. And I'm so fortunate to have played a role in picking our new chief counsel to the mayor, Ramzi Qasim, as well as our corporation counsel, Steve Banks, who's going to be confirmed soon, God willing, by the city council. And so, the mayor has his top-notch legal team to take him to the next level as mayor, and I will be remaining in private practice, not joining the administration. But of course, I have the best interests of the mayor at heart.
Let me ask you something then, Councilor. On his final day in office, Mayor Eric Adams created a charter commission. I've been looking at this stuff for a long, long time. I didn't even know that was possible. Can it be revoked? Does it take precedence over anything the new mayor or city council might want to do? Can it go on, as I believe it can, for a couple of years and then suddenly start making recommendations about how to change the charter?
Apparently, Eric Adams and Randy Mastro wanted to work right up until 11:59 last night. And it is absurd to me that they have passed a charter revision commission the day before they're leaving, seemingly for the issue of nonpartisan elections. Clearly, Eric Adams couldn't win a partisan or a nonpartisan election, so I'm not sure what the point of that was. This charter revision commission is established. I mean, the question is going to be, what are they really putting forward? Mayor Mamdani very well could, in his own right, start another charter revision commission under the law. And, I think what should be avoided is dueling ballot proposals, and we'll see what happens with this charter revision commission. Frankly, I've looked at the members that are named on this charter revision commission. They are not particularly people to be proud of to have on a list of commission members. They're some of the biggest misfits in New York City politics. With that said, let's see what they come up with, but there are different vehicles to see the future of this commission, and Ultimately it will be up to both the mayor and the governor to decide what happens with something like this.
Let me ask you about the larger political project that you alluded to, the creation of the Muslim Democratic Club, the involvement of more and more Muslim candidates and organizations and individuals in the political process. This is a high point. This is a breakthrough moment for that project. It has spurred something of a backlash. There have been some people, including at least one elected official, who have made all kinds of wild comments suggesting that none of this should be happening. I'm wondering what you think about all of that.
The ascension of Mayor Mamdani shouldn't be happening? This is a historic moment for the city of New York. Today we had a mayor who happens to be Muslim, but who has received the support of a wide swath of New Yorkers. The results speak for themselves. He won so many neighborhoods, so many communities. And I think that New York City has rejected Islamophobia very clearly based on the results. And in fact, we had one of the worst Islamophobic rhetoric and devices used against Zohran Mamdani in his election, and voters flat out rejected it. So I think New York City is ready to support the fact that this is a community that is no longer emerging, but has emerged and has built a coalition across New Yorkers.
And there are more candidates coming, aren't there? I've met some of the members of your club, and some of them seem quite ambitious.
As we say, alhamdulillah, thank God. We have a great bench. We have a lot of talent in this community. We have many candidates coming, and people are inspired by Zohran. If Zohran can be if Mayor Mamdani exists and he's the mayor now, people are feeling excited about running for assembly and council. And as an election attorney, my phone is blowing up because petitions start in February, right around the corner, and people are ambitious. Yes, they are.
Well, here we go again, right? There's always another election. That's what it means to be in New York. And so, look, you say he's your brother, you want to look out for his best interest, but you're not going into government. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. I will not be joining the administration. I would like to serve the mayor, perhaps, in a board or a commission of some sort. But, I enjoy private practice, and I enjoy being a litigator for individuals and bringing cases, and that's a passion of mine. And I've been proud to run my own practice for over a decade. And it's something I really enjoy.
Give some advice to incoming members of the administration who maybe haven't served in government before. This last administration, the Eric Adams administration, had so many ethical problems, missteps, indictments, arrests, ongoing litigation, even to this day. What would you tell people that they should bring into public service as their mindset to avoid a repeat of those problems?
Well, look, I think it all comes from the top down. And what we have in Mayor Mamdani is somebody who's committed to ethics and who has a high standard for himself and everybody around him. And, we are so lucky to have such a strong legal team with Ramzi Qasim and Steve Banks. And, I would advise everybody in the administration, don't be afraid to call the chief counsel's office and get an opinion and to check in. And, if it doesn't feel right, talk to somebody about it.
Okay, very good. Sound advice, and we will, again, congratulate you, wish you all the best of luck with your private practice, and I hope we'll be talking again as the next round of elections comes up.
Thank you, sir.
All right, good to see you. Let's take a short break now. When we come back, Muslim New Yorkers gathered around the city today to watch the inauguration of Mayor Mamdani, our city's first Muslim mayor. We'll take you inside one watch party in 2 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Mayor Zohran Mamdani's swearing in is historic in many ways, but for Muslim New Yorkers it holds special significance. Our Olivia Leach watched the inauguration from the Islamic Center of New York City and filed this report.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani took his midnight oath of office using a centuries-old Quran from the New York Public Library's Schomburg Center of Research in Black Culture, marking the first time a New York City mayor used an Islamic holy text to be sworn in. He used his grandfather and grandmother's Qurans for the swearing-in ceremony at City Hall, a poignant moment for many Muslim New Yorkers.
It speaks volumes to who he is as a person. We've all seen his intentionality throughout. And I think more than anything, you want a mayor that just understands the tone of the city, but also just the significance of historical things like that.
Dozens of Muslim New Yorkers and New Yorkers of other faiths gathered at the Islamic Center of New York City to watch this historic moment unfold. Zohran Mamdani being sworn in as the first ever Muslim mayor of New York City and the first Southeast Asian mayor and first African-born mayor in the city's history.
I mean, look at the room. There's energy. There's a lot of older people here who never would have thought that would have happened. Again, as a born and raised Muslim, as African-American Muslim, there's so many layers, and it gives hope.
His supporters watched proudly, especially when the Islamic Center's own Imam Khalid Latif led the invocation at Thursday's City Hall ceremony.
Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Arham Ar-Rahimin.
When they called out Imam Khalid Latif and they gave a shout out to the Islamic Center of New York City, it's kind of like a sense of pride where it's like, hey, we're here now. This is the community, and now the leader of this community, Imam Khalid, is there on TV, and hearing him give a prayer, and not just a prayer for Muslims, but a prayer for everyone in general, and kind of bridging that together, seeing that on a stage at the city level, it kind of really settles in the moment that, oh, we do have a first Muslim mayor.
And even though they weren't at City Hall, when Mayor Mamdani asked New Yorkers to stand with him, the crowd here at the NYC did just that.
This moment means everything. I think, too, it's reminiscent of the Yes We Can movement nationally, but the way that our new mayor, Mamdani, has galvanized support from all over the world, I think it's just amazing.
Olivia Leach, New York 1.
That is going to do it for tonight's special Inauguration Day coverage. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great evening. And be sure to join us tomorrow for the latest political developments and analysis here on Inside City Hall.